My name's Annie Lush. I'm one of the founders of the Magenta project and a sailor, but it's not me who's here to speak. We have an incredible lineup this afternoon of Olympians, Paralympians, Volvo Ocean Racers and other inspirational speakers who are doing amazing things in sailing. So I hope you enjoy the afternoon. I'd like to invite to the stage our first speaker. Thank you very much, Heather Stanning, for coming here today. I hope you enjoy your sailing. It's a little bit different from your rowing, so please come forward, Heather.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about opportunities, because I think most of my career in rowing has been about opportunities, whether they're opportunities that I've been given or opportunities I've taken. So I'm just going to quickly start off with who am I. Some of you have absolutely no idea who I am other than the girl who stroked the boat for Helen in the Olympics. Or some people know me as the army officer who also rowed. Both of which are true. I am still in the army, and I did spend 6 years in the British rowing team and competed in both London and Rio. But how did I get into elite rowing? Well, I was very lucky that there was a performance or talent ID coach based at the University of Bath where I was, a guy called Paul Stannard, and he actually picked me up in a club ergo test. And it wasn't my physical attributes that actually caught his eye. Yes, I'm tall, yes, I've got long levers, but actually it was my mental attitude, he said. It was something about, I've been told to do 2 kilometres on the rowing machine, I just got on and did it. I think it's probably something to do with my naivety of how hard it was. It was incredibly hard, it hurt a lot, but I just got on and did it because I was told to. But within 2 years, Paul had taught me how to row, taught me how to train, and I paired up with a girl called Olivia Whitlam. We won the Under-23 World Championships by the time I left university, so that was 2.5 years in the sport, and I'd become an Under-23 World Champion. I think my naivety got the better of me again, and I thought I could never be any better. I looked at the Olympic girls and thought, how on earth can I be as good as them? So I went off and joined the army because that had been a career I'd always wanted to have. And it was actually a year later, I commissioned from Sandhurst the day the Beijing Olympics started. Olivia, who I rowed with a year previous, was in Beijing racing in the pair. And that got me thinking, gosh, have I given up on something too soon? Should I give this another go? The next Olympics was going to be here at home, so it absolutely made sense for me to in my head anyway, to give it another crack. So I returned to training with Paul, who was my coach at university because I was based in the southwest with work. And I suppose the rest is really history. Me and Helen jumped in a boat together one winter because we didn't want to be training in our single sculls. The boat went quite well. It was suggested that we trialled together for the GB squad. It went quite well. We came 5th. The top 4 girls went into the 8. We were the 5th pair. We were put into a pair, and we never really looked back. But my point is that we had an opportunity to get in a boat together, and we made absolutely the most of it. We were 2 of Paul's athletes who had full-time jobs as well as trying to be full-time athletes. The winter we got into a boat together was the winter where 2009, 2010, I don't know if many of you remember, it was quite a cold winter, there was a lot of snow. The rest of the girls in the training group had gone off to a training camp in France. We were left behind because we both had jobs to do and we couldn't get time off work. Doing the mileage that's required in rowing in a single scull is just, it's mind-numbing, and when it's cold, it just takes forever. And in the cold winter that year, we just didn't want to do another 18k in our single, so we jumped in a boat together. And I think it was an opportunity we took, and we never looked back after that. So what makes a great Olympian or Olympic rower? I think you can take out rower and put elite sportsperson here, and here's a whole plethora of things that kind of I've put together over time when people have asked me to come and give talks. And what are the attributes that we need behind us as athletes? Yes, you need the kit and equipment, you need the physical attributes, you need the kind of the friends, family support, you need the nutrition, the physiotherapy, all that sort of stuff. But for me, the 2 things that really stand out are mental attitude and resilience. And that's not just for rowing, that's for all elite sports. So, dictionary definition of what resilience and what mental attitude are. Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulty and toughness. I think that is so important at elite level. And again, mental attitude, that's one thing that my first coach said that he saw in me, and that's what got me to where I ended up being. It's very much having that kind of mental toughness to stick at something. Doesn't matter what's put in your way, just to keep going at it. And our average training day for rowing, it's 3 to 6 hours of actual physical training. That's on the water, on a rowing machine, in the gym, lifting weights. But everything we did as elite rowers was to make us better, to make us the best versions of ourselves, to make us the best athletes we could be. Everything we did that had to have a purpose to it. You're not just doing the mileage for the sake of the mileage. I think for us, we really had to buy into the programme. You're not just doing the programme, you're not letting the programme happen to you. You're applying yourself to every single session, and that's so important. One more thing that me and Helen found really important to us when rowing was communication. I think this is equally as important across all sports. In teams where you are a small number, for us it was just 2 of us and our coach Robin, it's so important that we never left anything for misinterpretation. I know what you're all thinking. That's actually what it is. But it's so important, especially when communication is the one thing that can fall apart in times of stress, fatigue, high intensity, high stress environments, and that's the time when it matters most. And so this was something we were really conscious of, that we made a real effort to make sure never fell apart. After 2012, I returned to work with the Army and actually took 2013 out as a season. I spent 6 months in Afghanistan with the Army, and when I came back, I was adamant I wanted to get back in the rowing team and back in the boat with Helen. And so communication up until that point between us had been something where we'd developed as a team, we'd come into the national squad together, our rowing careers at the senior level had been together, so a lot of things had started to become unsaid. And so we made a real conscious effort of verbalising absolutely everything. So no one got offended by anything. If we said something that we thought, this is really obvious, but I'm going to tell her this anyway, I or Helen wouldn't be offended if the other one of us was telling us something that we thought we should already know, or it would be really obvious. And it was just something we thought was really important. And it absolutely paid dividends. It meant that we trusted each other 100%, and you really have to do that when there's 2 of you in a boat. The boat we rowed, we had 1 oar each. If we had any mistrust with each other, you can end up going round in circles. It's not a boat where one person doesn't have to pull their weight the whole time. You 100% have to be in sync with each other at all times to go forward in a straight line. And so communication has always been a really important part to us. But with that, I think communication and kind of the team, and this is kind of my final slide. For me, it is all about teamwork. As an individual, you can be the best you can be, but you're nobody without the team around you. And even as an individual sports person, you still have a team, and that's your support team. For me and Helen, it was each other and our coach Robin. Although there was only 2 of us in a boat, it's very much a team of 3. I could not have got to where I did in my sport without Helen and Robin. We very much had that kind of thought in the back of our minds that we are greater than the sum of our parts, and I think that's what made us a better team than maybe the people we competed against. We wanted to make sure that as individuals we were the best we could possibly be, but together we were far greater than that. And I think that's equally important across a number of team sports, and it's probably just as important in sailing. It doesn't matter how good you are individually, it's how well you work together with the people around you.
So next I would like to invite up Alex Rickman. I'm sure some of you know her, a sailor this time, a Paralympic sailor, double Olympic bronze medalist from London and Rio, and an all-round legend, really.
Welcome everybody. This is amazing that everybody's here. I've gone for the one picture scenario, a little bit last minute as per usual, but this is a photo of Nikki and I. So I sailed the 2-person Paralympic class. It was Scud 18. I like to think it's the best class, which I'll probably get booed from one of the tables I came from, but anyway. But it is clearly because it's got a spinnaker. And this is day 3 when things weren't going so great for us in Rio, but this is kind of where we made our comeback, and it was blowing up, and you can never see me because I'm always hiding behind my windscreen, aka Nikki Birrell. And as you can see, it was pretty wet and wild and a lot of fun. But I will tell you a little bit about my path to kind of getting here. So skip forward a lot of years and a lot of university and all of that stuff. And the RYA was looking for somebody to, and I dibbled and dabbled in a bit of sailing after that. And the RYA were looking then for to put together a new team to kind of go to push their current leading team a little bit harder, and to go into the trials for the Beijing Games. And they found Nikki, who sailed Olympic classes because he's got cerebral palsy and only has like a light bit of sort of hemiplegia, so a little bit weak in his right arm and leg. And he'd been sailing 470s, and they were like, here is a child, and you can go and look after him and go sailing with him. So I was like, okay, why not? At the time, I'd gotten a nice job and I was quite happily settled, but then it was like, here's an amazing opportunity. Just like Heather was saying, the door opened, and as far as I was concerned, I was going straight through it as quickly as possible. So you know, they gave us a boat, sent us off to Miami. We had to learn about how to campaign outside of our country, how to bring our team and, you know, make it a more cohesive unit going into games like that, which was, you know, always going to be more difficult. Again, things didn't quite pan out for us at the games itself because we'd kind of been lagging behind the Australians, and then ironically, the person whose berth that we managed to take off of her in Beijing managed to take the silver medal off of us in Rio. But it was still an amazing opportunity. I guess the two things to leave you is, one, the same sort of idea that opportunities, and I think also is that you should always take advantage of them because you never know what's going to be put in front of you. And I've had some amazing opportunities, and you know, I think I've always tried to grab at them and make sure I maximized on them, you know, because I definitely, you know, did not expect to be sitting here with 2 Paralympic medals in a sport which nobody in my family participates in. And also I think, you know, I'd like to say that hard work does pay off, and I don't know, everybody always says that the right attitude and hard work and they pay off, and it's like the quintessential thing you say, but the reality is that it does. You know, I think anything you put your mind to is essentially achievable. I'm not saying like walking on the moon is achievable, because basically for the average person it probably isn't. But you know, within a realm of reality. So I think just always, you know, take advantage of what's in front of you. And you know, here at Cardiff Bay, it's, you know, well, first of all, would you expect me to be racing around the bay in an M32? I don't think so. But I just had a wicked time and got to helmet too.
Heather, we've got one more Olympian. So we have another Paralympian, but this time from the Winter Olympics. And yeah, Jen, if you can come to the stage, we'd love to hear your story.
Thank you. Firstly, I'm Captain Jen Kehoe, and I am also a British Army officer. And I am an Alpine skier. I am not in the Paralympics because I have a disability, but I am the one half of Team Menna and Jen. I'm the sighted part, and I work with Menna Fitzpatrick, who is a 20-year-old visually impaired Alpine skier. So I think we set our aim very, very quietly. We didn't tell anyone else about it, but we had this knowing look between us at some certain points, like we're gonna spoil their party, or try to. And so we worked really hard throughout the season. We'd done really well in the World Cup races, getting podiums pretty much every race, and then culminating in our final World Cup races in the February over in Canada with 2 silvers and 2 golds. So we had physically beaten the Slovakians on snow in time. And so I think we dared to believe that it was possible that we could do pretty well at the Paralympics. We didn't tell anyone else about this. Our line to the media was, it's our first Paralympics. It's we're going out for the experience, and we would like to medal in something, but we're not putting any pressure on ourselves. And the pressure is huge when you go to the Olympics or the Paralympics. There's something special about the games which nobody. People talk about it, but until you get there, until you appreciate the atmosphere, it's very hard to actually prepare for and describe. And to add to that pressure, we were picked as bib number 1 in the first race of the opening race of the opening competition of the Paralympic Games, in our first ever Paralympic Games. So a little bit of pressure on our shoulders, and it was set our expectations and our sights high, and thought we're going to go for it. And we did, and we had reached 90 kilometres an hour by the 4th gate, and unfortunately there were ruts and just going around all the corners, as well as a ridge which threw Menna backwards. She hit the ruts and fell over, and so disaster after 4 gates into our Paralympic campaign. So the next day was our next race, and we had to pick ourselves up from a fall. Menna was in tears at the time, I was in tears later. You know, there was a lot of emotion going on. Things had gone disastrously wrong. This was not in the plan. So we had to work really hard as a team, and teamwork is so important. You know, everybody I think has touched on it this afternoon, that you cannot do what we do particularly without teamwork, and so we took away the responsibility, although Mena was the one who physically fell, we fell collectively, and we worked on, we talked about, right, how are we going to get back into a space where we can go out there, push out the gate confidently and go for another medal. So we did quite a lot of work with our sports psychologist, talking about the different strategies that you can use to try and calm yourself down in the start gate and control those nerves, because as I'm sure most of you will be aware, nerves are good in the right situation. So one of the strategies is controlling those butterflies that you've got and getting them to fly in formation. The second one that we were talking about was a thing called teacup, which is thinking calmly under pressure. And Mena is an avid tea drinker, so she visualised a cup of tea as her way of remembering that. And the final strategy that we used was yogic breathing, just deep, steady breaths to try and bring you back down. You can prepare as much as you like you do the training, deliver. I mean, the slides that Heather showed about the preparation for rowing, all of those aspects, you can do all of those and be 100% prepared, but on the day, you never quite know what's coming, and you've got to just react and be resilient to those external factors. And so I'll kind of canter through the middle of the Paralympics, because what that second race gave us and crossing the line gave us was confidence. And that is something that is immeasurable in sport. If you've got the confidence to go out there and try a bit harder, keep going, determination to keep going, then actually you stand a chance of succeeding. But the thing I really wanted to say to you guys as sailors is teamwork is so important. It's everything for us. I often actually steal an analogy from rowing and describe ourselves as a boat, because when you talk about alpine skiing, people kind of think, oh yeah, well you just follow, it doesn't really matter, but we've got to be totally in sync with what we're doing to be able to go as fast as possible, and without, we're not attached, we're not, there's nothing physical, so it's got to be that perfect rhythm of flowing down the slope with just communication. And so when you're on a boat, I guess you have that feeling, that sweet spot of when you're sailing and doing, it all comes together and it suddenly works, and you're flying along on that leg to the next buoy and working as a team, and it's just the most amazing thing. And that's where you can really achieve and meet your goals.